to What's on Watches. I hope that you're well. A massive thank you again to our friends at Ogden of Harrogate for letting us, one, come here today, and two, get hands-on with some personal favourite watches of ours. We've got a really interesting topic today, and we're going to be discussing vintage watches.
Yeah, so we've got an awesome lineup. We've got Patek Philippe, Jaeger-LeCoultre, and an awesome old gold Vacheron Constantin. If you want to make any of these watches your own, make sure you visit Ogden of Harrogate.
Vintage watches, it's a topic for us that we absolutely love. We love all watches, whether it be new Submariners, new Tudors, but everything dating back to vintage watches as well. And I think with the condition of the current market, where everywhere you turn you see 5711 Nautilus, Royal Oak, Aquanaut, it's really interesting to go back in time and get hands-on with the watches that these brands should be remembered for.
There's definitely a certain charm that comes with vintage watches that you just don't get with a new piece. Knowing that someone's worn this piece before you, it's got a story to tell, and in some cases maybe even a legacy left behind to be passed on to generations. And I think that's a really beautiful idea.
And the intricate details when it comes to vintage watches. I mean, we're going to be going over a lot of them today, but I'm just looking around at what we've got, and we've got two Pateks here. I'm wearing a 1980s Calatrava, and we've got an Ellipse here as well, but it's little details, such as the hobnail here, that I sometimes think is missing from some modern watches.
A lot of modern watches like to play it safe. They know what works, they know what's popular. And like I said about character, for example, your hobnail details over there, little things like the Maltese cross and the crown, it's just different to what you get nowadays.
So then Josh, what do you want to talk about first?
First of all, the 6075 Chronometer Royale, dated 1950s. It's an all gold piece from Vacheron. Nothing says you've made it in life like a solid gold watch. You've achieved something, or maybe you just like gold, I know I do. This piece has sub-seconds. In the days of watches of old, it was easier to make a sub-seconds than a centre-seconds. That's why sub-seconds are so prevalent in vintage watches, and it's something we're starting to see a bit of a comeback with in modern watches such as the new Aquaterra. Absolutely,
yeah. The Chronometer Royale is a really interesting point in Vacheron's history. The originals all were equipped with the 1008 BS movement. BS stands for balance stop, not any other form of BS you may think of. But the interesting thing with these watches, these were one of the first watches to be offered with a hacking mechanism in the civilian market.
Yeah, the hacking seconds is something we pretty much see as standard on all watches. Stops the second hand moving, so if you like to be really anal about setting the time on your watch, you can get it just right.
I'm so glad that you've picked out this watch in the middle, and I know people are going to criticise me for this and my pronunciation. However, this is such an important watch in Jaeger history.
So the Jaeger-LeCoultre Memovox from the late 50s with an E853 movement in. It was actually the first automatic piece to have an inbuilt alarm within the watch.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a 37mm watch, but actually for the 50s era that it came out, is a phrase that we're more than familiar with. This was actually considered the jumbo. So although we are looking at dress watches, what I really like about this Jaeger is the fact that it does have two crowns, which does feel slightly sporty even though it's not.
Yeah, so the second crown on this piece is actually how we set the alarm function. The alarm function is pointed out by the indices within the centre of the dial. And so it's a case of pulling it out, moving the indices to the hour that you want to set the time, and hopefully it gets you up for work in the morning.
So I know how excited you are to talk about this one, so I'm going to let you take the reins on this.
Yeah, so this is the 3648 Patek Philippe Ellipse in 18 karat gold. The deep blue dial, the way the sunburst dial plays in the light, the ellipse shape of the watch, it just sits on the wrist so nice. It's something a little bit different. It's a Patek, but unless you're clued up about watches, especially vintage watches, likely is this one's going to fly under the radar.
So it's really interesting throughout all of these watches that we've been talking about. They are of course available in current renditions from the manufacturer. The Ellipse being a clear example of that. The Ellipse is still part of the Patek lineup. The Ellipse that we have here clocks in at 27.5mm by 32.5mm. And of course the modern one is considerably bigger. And I think if you're a fan of vintage watches, the case size is something that you are a fan of as well.
For sure.
And I think having an Ellipse at this case size truly symbolises what a dress Patek Philippe is all about. So I think it's really interesting to see from all the watches that we've looked at here today, particularly these vintage models. You know, the Calatrava that I've been wearing, the lineups, the Ellipse, the Vacheron, the Jaeger, with the condition of the current market being so heavily focused on steel sports watches. And there's nothing wrong with that. We love steel sports watches, we own them ourselves. But it's really, really interesting to see the direction of where these brands have come from.
If you like any of the watches you've seen in the video today, make sure you visit the Ogden's website and have a look for yourself. Or if you'd like to source something of a similar vein, visit the Watson Watches website at www.watsonwatches.co.uk.
Thank you again to our friends at Ogden's of Harrogate. Please remember to like and subscribe, and we'll see you soon.